Hi, my name is Michael Condon, and I'm an Adult Services Librarian at the Borough Park branch. And today I'm going to teach a class on Ancestry.com. Part of this class is based on a June 23rd, 2020 presentation by Peter Otis, a librarian in the Arts and History Division. I'll be going through a lot of stuff, so I'm happy to email the full text of my script to anyone who wants it. Feel free to email me at mcondon@bk@brooklynlibrary.org, and I'll send it out to you. I also hope that this guide will be available on the wiki page. Ancestry.com was traditionally only available in the branches, but it is currently available remotely for all people with Brooklyn Public Library cards. As of now, our remote license expires on June 30th, 2021, but it may be further renewed at a further date depending upon patron interest in the product and the access to in-library resources that will be available in July 2021. So I'm going to share my screen so you can see what I'm doing. Okay, so let me get that out of the way. So we go to the online resources page, and the second box is genealogy resources. And my computer's been acting up, so I already have the genealogy resources loaded. And the first resource is Ancestry.com. And you can click either the link that says Ancestry.com or the link that says library card required to get in. Now, so there we go. Now, genealogical research is a lot of hard, time-consuming work. Ancestry.com genealogist Krista Cohen compared genealogy research to making a jigsaw puzzle without a picture on the box. The Ancestry.com professional website sells subscriptions in 1 month and 6 month blocks, not hourly blocks. And the ads I've been getting on Facebook since I started researching Ancestry.com for this guide were offering 2 free weeks on the site. So they assume that their users will spend a lot of time there. The paid site also has an option for hiring a genealogist for a starting fee of $2,500. So they expect the average person to have much difficulty navigating the site. The library version is missing many of the features of the paid site, and quite a few links will bring up an invitation to subscribe to the site for $25 for 1 month or $99 for 6 months. Krista Cohen recommends talking to one's older relatives before conducting a search. For example, I thought that my family settled in Brooklyn after arriving from Europe. My father recently told me that they settled first in Chicago, only later coming to Brooklyn around the turn of the 20th century. If I didn't know this, I would have ignored all results that had my great-grandfather living in Chicago in the 19th century. However, if you find information that doesn't conform to their relative stories, but looks correct, or following the relative stories may have led you to a dead end, it may be that secrets were kept from them, such as the existence of an out-of-wedlock child or a relative who was institutionalized. Also, a relative could have just been making up stories. Or maybe some information got lost or confused over the years. Krista Cohen gave the example of a family who thought that they were ethnic Lithuanian when they were really from a German enclave within Lithuania. Now, while I feel comfortable with giving this advice in a guide where I'm not in direct contact with the public, I may not always give it when I'm working with a patron one-on-one. It has been my experience that generally only older patrons ask the librarians for help, while younger patrons prefer to do their own research. Most of the people I've helped with Ancestry.com were over 70 years old, so it's unlikely that they would have had any older relatives they could ask. Suggesting that younger patrons ask their relatives may cause stress because they may already have exhausted that source of information or may be estranged from their families. I've encountered both situations. Okay, so now we're on the main page for Ancestry.com. And the home page for Ancestry.com has 4 boxes detailing major categories of records. They are marked Search Census. Let me scroll down. search vitals, search military, and now it's working well. Okay, and search immigration. Above these boxes is a green rectangle marked begin searching. Ancestry.com suggests that one starts one search there. So let's do that. Now, the basic fields are first and middle name, last name, place your ancestor might have lived, and birth year. I tested it out on each of my grandparents and got from 40,000 to 120,000 hits for each of them. The default is 20 results per page. There are only about 3 correct results per page. The rest had errors such as wrong name, wrong city, or wrong birth date. Ancestry.com genealogist Krista Cohen advises against going past the first page in a search, no matter how many entries turn up. It also advises that one should check out the first page, even if the number of hits indicates that most of the entries will be wrong. For purposes of this class, I'm not going to use my grandparents' names because I don't want to reveal personal information. Instead, I'm going to search for one of the most famous people ever to have been born in New York, Franklin Delano Roosevelt, who was president during the Depression and World War II. Okay, so let's type in what I know about him. His name, Franklin Delano, the place where he was, his last name, Roosevelt, the place where he was born, Hyde Park, New York. And his birth year, 1882. I press search. And I get 21,018 results. And I've done this search about a dozen times already, and I've gotten 21,018 every time. So this is about less than what I got from my grandparents, possibly because he's a public figure and a lot is known about him, possibly because he has that strange name, Delano. Franklin Delano is a pretty strange name. Now, the gradations for first and middle name are exact spelling, exact and similar, then sounds like, initials, and then broad. And with broad, any first name could pop up. One of my grandfathers had the first name John, but I found Michael or William on the first page of results. The gradations for last name are exact spelling, similar, sounds like, and broad. And unlike the other categories, for last name, it's not the broadest, probably because having anything pop up for a last name would be useless. And initials are not one of the categories for last name because, again, just getting an initial for a last name would be an M. I'm guessing that broad is an option just in case someone has an extremely distinctive first name like Delano. And now the reason why there's such a big range is that the person who wrote the record that Ancestry.com is referencing could have had bad handwriting or filled out a form using an initial rather than a full name. That was very common for census takers, that they would, if like the person was John Smith, they just put down J. Smith. Or the person could have been a bad speller, or the person recording the data could have made a typo or misheard the name. And these errors could have been compounded if there was a language barrier between the census taker and the person who was being interviewed. Now, if the person had a non-English name and you're having trouble finding material, you may want to try anglicizing the name. For example, I once found records for a person named Giuseppe after I did a search using Joseph as the first name instead. And some of the strange misspellings are due to SoundX, an algorithm used to search for alternative spellings of a name based on pronunciation. This allows for finding records that have minor errors in spelling, such as typing Smith with a Y instead of an I, or typos, such as leaving out the vowel completely. in Smith in the record or the record index. Excuse me. Now, if the person had a now wildcards or special symbols used in place of unknown letters in the word. They can be used in searches when you don't know an exact spelling. Ancestry uses the asterisk and the question mark as wildcards. An asterisk represents 0 to 5 characters. A question mark represents 1 character. When searching with wildcards, Ancestry.com recommends that one not conduct a search in which the first and last characters are wildcards, and all searches containing wildcards should contain at least 3 non-wildcard letters. For example, searching asterisk Onsen is recommended, or searching John So with the asterisk at the end is recommended, but they don't recommend searching for asterisk Onso asterisk. Or you could search for asterisk ILL, but they don't recommend searching asterisk LL. And wildcards are used in various ways. So if you typed in B question mark LL, that would find ball, bell, bill, ball, and bull. When you actually do the search, most of the names that pop up will be Bill, with some being Bell, and the others, I didn't see any on the first page, but there are literally millions of results coming up. So so I'm sure that those are out there as well. Now, you can also find names that begin with the same letters. So if you type in Fran with an asterisk, that will find the results for Fran, Frank, Franklin, and both common ways of spelling Francis with an ES and an IS. And you could also use the asterisk if you're not sure what the first letters in a word were, because you can't. Sometimes it's difficult to tell whether or not somebody named Thompson, if it's TH Thompson or just a T Thompson. It might be better just to type in asterisk Thompson. And you can also find alternate spellings of a name. So if you're looking for Lacey, you could just type in LAC asterisk, and you can find Lacey with a Y, with an EY, an I, or an IE. Okay. And now let's go back to the search for Roosevelt. A date can be specified as being exact within 1 year, within 2 years, within 5 years, within 10 years, or just broad, which could be any year popping up. And and this is both plus or minus. So if I put in my birthday, it would, for 1970, it would be within 1 year, it would find anything from 69 to 71. If it was 2 years, 68 to 72, and so on. Now, Krista Cohen advises that one should have within a year or two as a default, because such small errors are very common on census forms and other documents. And I found that to be true for all of my grandparents. Now, if the patron's possible ancestor's birth year keeps going up as the years go on, but you're pretty sure they're the same person, maybe they present themselves as younger on official documents in order to avoid age-based discrimination in employment. They may have resumed recording their actual age after retiring. And that's what I found for my great-grandmother, who kept on getting younger in the 19th century. And then when she turned 65, she went back to her regular age. Now, the place can be specified as exact place, county, county and adjacent counties, state, state and adjacent states, country, and broad, which is anywhere in the world. And that would be particularly of interest if the person isn't exactly sure what country they were in, if they were in an area that, if their ancestor was an area that shifted between countries due to wars, like the Alsace-Lorraine section of France, which sometimes belongs to France, sometimes belongs to Germany. Now, one can narrow the choices to exact for all the settings, but even if you're 100% sure of your subject's file statistics, narrowing the search too much may result in getting no results. So let's see what happens if we make everything exact for Franklin Delano Roosevelt. We update. And so we had 21,018 results, and now we have 19 results. Okay, so now Ancestry.com has the full set of US censuses from 1790 to 1940. In order to protect the privacy of living people, US censuses are not released to the general public until 72 years after the census was originally taken. The 1950 census will not be available on Ancestry.com until 2022. And many states had censuses whose information was collected at the 5-year mark. New York State conducted a state census regularly from 1790 to 1821, and every 5 years from 1825 to 1925. 1925 was the date of the final New York State Census. Unfortunately, most of the 1890 population schedules were badly damaged by a fire in the Commerce Department building in January 1921. Compounding the problem, the 1890 census was the first one which was sent directly to Washington by participants rather than filed at a county clerk's office, which passed on a copy to Washington. Only around 6,000 names from all over the country, nearly 63 million, have survived. So that's less than 1 in 10,000. Also, from 1790 to 1840, only the head of the household was listed by the census. Other members of the household were only acknowledged as tally marks with no names or information. Other challenges with researching the censuses is that not everyone fills out the census. As of October 14th, 2020, one day before the end of data collection, only 58% of Brooklyn households have filled out the census. And the self-report rate for the nation as a whole for the 2010 census was 66.5%. There may have been similar inaccuracies 100 years ago. Many people neglected to list children in the census because they believed it only asked for people of working age. Also, it is possible that one's ancestors put inaccurate information on a census form, either deliberately or accidentally, especially if English was a new language for them. The searchable fields on the census database are first and middle name, last name, and the following life events: birth date, death date, marriage date. Okay, so first and middle names, last name, birth date, death date, lived in, marriage, arrival. Yes, that's the arrival of the spouse, military, any event. And as well as family members such as father, mother, sibling, spouse, and child. Keyword, and the keyword could be used for the to list the occupation of one's ancestor. And then we have gender, race, nationality, and residence state, father's birthplace, and mother's birth date. So there's one field for each relative. Additional relatives can be added by clicking the relation type where it says add family member. So I click sibling, and another box for sibling pops up. Click spouse, another box for spouse comes up. I click child, I click child, I click child. And so now there are 4 boxes for child. but we can't add another parent. So if an ancestor had a step parent, we would have to go to the records for that ancestor's parent and click the spouse button. And okay, let me move my head and the spot, whoop, and this toolbar here. And there are search tips on the right-hand side of the census database. And you can check these helpful tips when you conduct your search. Now, one especially noteworthy tip is to see if your ancestor had an older sibling. The birthplace of an older sibling could give a clue as to where their parents married and possibly where they grew up. Another another mentions that some census takers only recorded initials rather than last names. So that explains why initial is an option in the journal search for first names. Okay, so let's go back to the main menu. I'm going to move my head. Okay, so the search file section is for finding documents related to birth, marriages, and death. Ancestry.com is very careful about protecting the privacy of people who are alive, so you can't test the vital records section by looking for your own birth certificate. One can find marriage and divorce records even if the subject is still alive. Sometimes the marriage record will be a few days different from the couple's official wedding anniversary because the record will indicate when the marriage license was signed, which may be different from the date of the religious ceremony, especially if the marriage license was signed in a government office and the religious ceremony took place over the weekend. An Ancestry.com search often has trouble with divorces, remarriage, and stepchildren, and may miss relevant information. Although the Social Security Death Index is kept private for 3 years after the person's death, I was able to find death records for people who had died as late as December 2019. I was not able to find the death records for anyone I know who died in 2020. But then again, if someone died that recently, you probably have the rest of their information, and the site is designed to discover more distant relatives. Ancestry.com users who are looking for an obituary are offered a link to search on newspapers.com. Newspapers.com is not a database offered by the Brooklyn Public Library, so one needs to make an account with one's email address. Use of this database isn't perfect, as the artificial intelligence sometimes makes transcription errors, especially if the original word isn't a common English word. If your patron's ancestor died in Brooklyn between the years 1841 and 1963, check to see if there's an obituary and if the obituary appeared in the Brooklyn Eagle. The entire collection of the Brooklyn Eagle is available in the Brooklyn Newsstand, another database provided by the Brooklyn Public Library in partnership with newspapers.com. Brooklyn Newsstand may be found in the genealogy section of our databases, right below Ancestry.com. And okay, so Ancestry.com, okay, right below Ancestry.com and Biography and Genealogy Master Index. And one does not need to provide an email address or even input a library card to access these newspapers. The artificial intelligence transcription errors may still occur. So I can just click it, and I'm doing this from my home computer, not from a library computer, and yet it's the database still loads. So there we have the Brooklyn Daily Eagle, the Standard Union, the Brooklyn Citizen, the Chat. But while the Brooklyn Daily Eagle was a popular paper, I'm a lifelong Brooklyn resident. I wasn't alive in 1963, but I've never heard. But my parents were very familiar with the Brooklyn Eagle, but I've never heard of these other papers. Now, other resources for New York State obituaries are the databases, New York State newspapers, New York Times, 1851 to 2007 with index, 1851 to 1993, and the New York Times digital microfilm for obituaries for 2008 and later. They may be found by going to the online resources section, and then scrolling down to the entry for newspapers and journals, or newspapers and magazines. Clicking the link and scrolling down to the relevant databases. Some cultural changes may have to be accounted for. Married women didn't have their own identity decades ago. So in some obituaries, women were listed as their husband's name with a Mrs. in front of it. The obituary for my grandfather listed my aunt with her husband's last name without a Mrs. prefix as the name of his daughter. Even Eleanor Roosevelt, who's probably the most famous woman in the world at this time, is named as a female Franklin Roosevelt in the record for her November 8th, 1962 obituary. Okay, so let's go back to the home page. Okay, so search military may turn up more information than you might think for your male relatives who are American citizens. Even if you know for sure that your relatives did not fight any wars, there is a good chance that they have draft records. The list for the Union Civil War draft was most men aged 20 to 45. Men who fell into the following categories were exempt from the draft: men who were mentally or physically impaired, the only son of a widow, the son of infirm parents, or a widower with dependent children. The records for the draft for World War II include all men aged 18 through World War I, includes all men aged 18 through 45 as of September 12, 1918, and the list for World War II includes all men born on or after April 28, 1877. For example, let's check out Franklin Roosevelt. Oop. Okay, now the first result that comes up is U.S. Sons of the American Revolution. So this shows that one of his ancestors fought in the Revolutionary War, and that could be used to find out more of his ancestors. Here's his World War I service data. But down here you see his World War II draft registration card, and we click View right here. And the 60-year-old polio-ravaged president of the United States would have literally been the last man drafted to fight during World War II. And as we could see from looking at the card, his wife is listed as Mrs. Franklin D. Roosevelt, not Eleanor Roosevelt. Now, Ancestry.com even gives access to over 2 million records of people who served in the Confederacy during the Civil War. However, in keeping with Ancestry.com's commitment to protecting the information of living people, you cannot search for the information of a person currently serving in the military. Okay, we go back to the home page. Okay, so the section marked Search Immigration is for searching of both immigration and travel records. It has the passenger lists of ships that traveled to the United States. In 1819 federal law required that ship captains provide demographic information on their passengers. Note, the same person may appear in the passenger lists multiple times if they traveled back and forth between their home country and the United States, or people who were born in the United States who visited Europe. Naturalization was done at the state level until 1906, but one should know the state where one's ancestor resided. The state records tend to be sparse and useful genealogical data, while the federal records created after 1906 contain greater detail. Now, so here's what it looks like in there. So there's New York, U.S. surviving passenger and crew lists. And here's just the general information for immigration. Now, after you're done with the main search categories, you may want to check out the quick links at the bottom of the page. Okay, one of the links is public member trees. You might discover that someone has made a family tree that includes some of your relatives. These trees were made by Ancestry.com subscribers, but are available on the free site. Krista Cohen advises against consulting the family trees first, because it is her professional opinion that doing so biases one's search. Because unless the person making the tree was a trained genealogist, they may have made some mistakes. Sometimes the person making the tree was sometimes the family tree lists the username of the person who made it, making it easy to consult with the person. And other times the username is unavailable, so you have to guess who made the tree based on the information the person searched for. One cannot contact the creator of the family tree using the Ancestry.com database that's available through the library, as that function is reserved for paying users. However, if one can deduce that the creator is a family member, one may have alternative ways of contacting them. Now, I found a family tree made by a cousin, but my father said that it had major errors. For example, he listed the wrong person as his great-grandmother. To him, it was just the name of a person who died 15 years before his birth. But to my father, that person was a grandmother who he knew personally. It's possible that the username for a person is only available if they are currently a member. The person who made the tree for my family died recently, so his membership may have expired in between my initial research and writing the final draft of this guide. Okay. Now, another quick link is schools, directories, and church histories. So it's down here on the right-hand side. Okay. I helped a 70-year-old man find pictures of his father from his high school and college yearbook. He found the experience to be very moving, as he had never seen a photograph of his father as a young man, and he was amazed at how much his father resembled his 15-year-old grandson in those pictures. Now, church histories and records are particularly important to find out about ancestors before they came to the United States, especially if official government records aren't available, such as 19th century Irish censuses. Okay. Now, another database is city directories. City directories can be used to track the location of someone who was located during a census for the years between the censuses. If a relative is listed as being at one location in the 1900 census and another for 1910, then the city directories can pinpoint the year a person moved. The city directory section is not recommended for Brooklyn-related searches. Fortunately, the Brooklyn Public Library has archived Brooklyn directories from 1856 to 1967. In order to access them, go to the Brooklyn Public Library's homepage. Okay, so we're going to go there. We click Learn. And we scroll down to where it says Brooklyn Collection. And then okay, whoops, it looks like, we click Digital Collections. Okay, no, sorry. I got ahead of myself. I'm a half hour into this. I'm not restarting my recording. Sorry. All right, so we click Learn. We click Brooklyn Collection. We click Resources. Okay, that's where I got confused. We scroll down to where it says Databases, and we see City and Telephone Directories online from 1856 onward. Okay, and these are all the directories. Okay. We press Home, and now another another resource. This one on the lower left-hand side of the page are message boards, and so you can search see if there's anything regarding the people that you're looking for. And unfortunately, while the library account allows one to search the threads, one may not post a question oneself or post an answer or respond to someone else's question. One needs to have a paid account to do that. And now other features that are only available to users with individual paid subscriptions to Ancestry.com include features related to Ancestry DNA products and services, the ability to create an individual user profile, the ability to create your own online family tree to connect relatives and link organize records. And good free alternatives include Family Search, where you can create a user file and build a family tree visible to other Family Search users. And that's www.familysearch.org. Family Echo, www.familyecho.com. And access to printable family trees templates provided by Ancestry. And this list of resources was provided by Peter Otis in his June 23rd, 2020 presentation. And if you still can't find the needed records, there's a chance that the records aren't online. Ancestry.com gives access to over 20 billion records, with around 2 million being added every day. However, not all records are accessible. Some may be because the site hasn't gone around to adding them. Some may be because the organization that holds the records makes money off giving access and doesn't want to lose that revenue stream. And I think that may be especially true for localities with a very bad tax base. Like I remember like helping a patron. This is who had problems with that, trying to find some information from Eastern European sources. And some may not have been considered important enough to preserve at the time, such as Native American marriage records during the Civil War. And some may have been destroyed by accident, such as most of the US Census forms from 1890 or most of the 19th century Irish census forms. If you can go to the search button on the toolbar, okay, so let's move this out of the way. So right up here, oh, by the way, so the free charts that I mentioned before are available. Also, you go to the toolbar, you click Charts and Forms. We have an ancestral chart, census forms, research calendar. And so these are things that you can download. But we also have something called we have the search button, and then the last entry on the search button is card catalog. And the card catalog can be used to determine what records are online. Only use the title box if you know the title of the database that you are looking for and only want that particular database. Otherwise, use the keyword box. because when I was playing around with it, my home branch is Borough Park, so we have a lot of people interested in finding their relatives who were lost during the Holocaust. So I tried typing in Holocaust, and so I got 24 results when I typed it into the title. But when I type Holocaust into the keyword search, I find 210 databases, and some of the databases found using the keyword are enormous, and it would have been missed if I did only a title search. And now the default sorting method is database title, which gives the databases in alphabetical order. But I think it'd be much more. Oh no. Okay, it's by date added here, but I think that's not the default. I think that's from when I was working on it before. Yeah, database title is default. I think the most useful is going by record count, because that gives the number of, it shows how many records the database has, and to show what might be a good place to start. So the one at the top has 19 million records, and that's not one that appeared when I just did a title search for Holocaust, nor are the others in the top three, which have 1.7 million and 721,000. The first one, that's Holocaust in the title, has 654,000 results. Now, once you've been searching for a while, you may, and this is going to be more for you to tell your patrons, because you're not going to remember this after like if the patron comes in, like from week to week looking for help, you're probably not going to remember what databases you searched. But date added would give a list of, or actually date updated shows what things have been updated since the last time you used it. Now, for more tips, click the item marked Learning Center on the toolbar on the main page. So, or here's Learning Center right up here. And let me clear it out. We click Learning Center. And this leads to a page designated Research Aids. These provide links to articles and videos giving advice on how to search for records related to African American family searches, Native American family searches, and searching for immigrant ancestors. Okay, and so looking for the Native American ancestors or African American ancestors is in the box at the bottom that says ethnic right here. Okay, and so that's all I have right now. Hope you found this interesting. Thank you very much. Goodbye.